Welcome, Marcus. Today, our session is all about yourself, getting to know you and getting to know what your expectations for the company, what the future looks like. First of all, if you would like to give a few words to get to know yourself for those who don't know you yet, to describe yourself in some few words.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Um, so my name is Marcus McCarty. I run the legal and HR functions at Trax. Um, my third anniversary with Trax is on Friday. So I've been here almost exactly 3 years. Um, Most of my career has been as a lawyer, but I did work in operations at Western Union for a while too. I was there for 17 years before coming here. Um, and I love Trax. I think one of the things that attracted me to joining was the fact that it's a global company. And I was at Western Union before for 17 years, and that's a big global company with offices all over the world. And it was kind of fun to be able to work with people from all over. So to be able to do that again on a smaller scale at Trax is a lot of fun and what attracted me here.
Is this your first time working remotely?
Yeah, other than like the COVID remote, it is, yeah. And for a little while, we had an office here in Denver, but that lease ended and the landlord wouldn't renew it. So yeah, so now I'm at home.
So you're based in Denver?
Yeah.
That's nice. Well, congratulations for almost your anniversary, Trax. We're really happy to have you here. Just to get to know a little bit more about yourself, what's something unexpected that you can tell us that people cannot find in your LinkedIn?
Things that aren't in my LinkedIn. Um, well, I have a couple of kids. My son's he just turned 20 and he's a sophomore in college, and my daughter is 17 and she's a senior in high school. Um, I love to ski. I guess that's a benefit of living in Colorado is to be able to do that. I play tennis, not very well. I took it up probably like 5 years ago, so I'm not very good, but I play on a men's league team in the summer, so that's fun. Um, I like I like to go see live music. My kids refer to my musical taste as old man rock, but that's what I like. So yeah, so those are some things that aren't in my profile.
So you mentioned that you were a lawyer before. How did you get to Trax? Like, how did you get to know the company, come all the way here to work remotely?
Well, that's an interesting story, kind of. So, like I said, I had worked at Western Union for 17 years, and then I left there and had been doing some consulting work just for clients of my own, but also looking for what was going to be next. And I thought I wanted to work in kind of the private company space, so I was doing some networking. And then my daughter was starting high school at a new school, and there was like a barbecue, a welcome barbecue for new students that was hosted by current students or their families. And so this barbecue was at David Gottlieb's house. And so I met him for the first time. But one of my best friends lives on his block, and so he knew him, and we got to chatting uh, and just kind of a normal conversation about like, what do you do? I told him I'm a lawyer, and he's like, oh, well, my company's looking for a lawyer. And so, we had coffee the next week, and he introduced me to Justin, who was the CEO at the time. And, a few months later, I was working here.
That's a great story. So basically, because of your daughter, you got the job in Trax.
Exactly. I give her all the credit.
As you mentioned, you worked for a long time in Western Union. Do you have any mentor or any person that you always took advice from that shaped the way you work today?
I think over the years I've had a lot. Probably the most important was a general counsel that I worked for at Western Union. He gave me some opportunities to do things that I hadn't done before, so I kind of grew in the organization there. But then I also learned a lot because I actually was kind of pulled out of the legal department and worked on a transformation effort, and the company had partnered with a consulting firm to make a lot of changes to the business, like digital transformation. And one of the people that I had known at the company, but then began to work more closely with, was Kendra Rickenbaugh, who's our chief people officer or chief customer experience officer. And so working with her in that group when we did transformation, I think that really changed my perspective on leadership and how companies should run and things like that. So that experience, it maybe was less of a person than just the experience, you know?
Yeah. Um, is there something, maybe a skill or something future Marcus will look back and feel proud of, something you're currently doing maybe?
That's a good question. Um, I think um, to be able to lead with humility and ask questions of people, you know, like people who are closer to a situation usually have better idea of how to handle it, you know? And
Yeah.
so to admit that I don't have an answer and that there's probably someone else who has a better idea of what to do than me, I think is good. And I also think compassion is really important. Um, I always say like you can't manage people based on how you operate as a manager. I think you have to like meet each person on the team where they are.
Mm-hmm.
People are everyone's motivated differently, and so I think you have to manage each person as an individual, not in just like it's not a one size fits all. And I think in order to do that, you have to have compassion and understand where people are coming from.
That's a wonderful answer. And I, like me personally, because I know I have been working in the HR group, I've seen you a few times in our meetings. I see how much love people have for you in the company. So I'd say you would be a great leader and you have been doing a great job. That's what I hope to see from all the calls that we've had and how people talk about you. So we're excited to have you, get to know you more. What's the legacy that you hope to build with your leadership role?
Um, I think always just to make an environment where everyone can grow and to come into their own, you know, like to be able to create a space where people are comfortable trying new things, learning, you know, where it's safe to fail because, you know, not because people aren't paying attention or being diligent, but because, you know, they took a chance, it was an educated guess or whatever, as long as there's a rationale behind it. So to have like for it to be a safe place to learn and grow, I think is important.
I like that as well. Um, what is one tip or one comment that you can make to other managers that are currently going through a transition or going through a high season, let's say, to manage their team, to get to know them more, to lead with humility, as you mentioned?
I think to be curious about the person as well as the job, you know, I think everyone brings their own perspective to what they're doing and, what they understand of whoever their customer is. And so I think leaders should be curious about what the people on their teams are experiencing. And, it's more about, I think you learn more when you ask someone why they did something than say, oh, you should have done it this other way, you know?
Yeah.
I think everyone can learn from that.
What advice would you give someone that's trying to be noticed? Someone that wants to step into a leadership role eventually and wants to grow in the company?
Well, I think it's always important to have active conversations with your leaders about where you want your career to go. And I think sometimes people hold back because they don't want their manager to think that they're not happy where they currently are. So I think managers also have a role in like letting people be comfortable to share those things. And so I think both sides, need to, I believe in like continuous feedback, and that there should be regularly scheduled time between, leaders and their team members to have conversations, and those conversations should include discussions about development, um, because I also think, like, even in a current role, if your dream is to do something different in the future, like, I think we should expect everyone to want that, right? And so and so people, when you understand where someone wants to go, sometimes that helps decide which skills they can build, and how, not everyone on the team likes the same things. There are some people who are, analytical and really want to get into data. Well, there are other people that are more, sorry, got a phone call. Well, there are other people who are, more people oriented and soft skills, right? And so I think for a team, it's hard to expect everyone to have the same profile. And so if you can build on people's strengths, you can kind of create a well-rounded team, and understanding what people desire in their career helps kind of guide where you can go with that.
Talking about making people grow and stepping into leadership roles, there's some situations in which you as a manager have, let's say, 3 different people that you see that they have the potential to become better. And let's say you have to get one of them to this leadership position. How do you choose between different people that all of them are amazing, or all of them have good capabilities?
Well, I think that's hard. And I think what's also hard is, if you look, like, if in your example, if you look across a group of 3 people, sometimes as a leader, it's hard to say, well, that one's most like me, so that's the one I should choose, right? So, I think I think you have to be careful. I think there's a lot to, like, look into, not only how people manage up, right? Like, I know how, people interact with me, but how do they interact with the people that work for them? So I think there's a balance in all this. And then, ultimately it's probably like there's a little bit of intuition or gut feel on those. But, and again, I think having those conversations with people about what they're looking for, is always important. And then supporting people. Like, I think this is sometimes difficult, but, like, it's okay to want everyone on the team to succeed, but make a choice of one of them, and then maybe if others decide, like, the only way for them to grow is to, look for a role on a different team or a different organization. I think as people, we should always support the people that we work with in those decisions too. So I think the more open and transparent we can be with people about how we came to those decisions and why, I think is important. And then always be supportive, to the extent people react appropriately, right? People need to handle those things with maturity too. So
Yeah, definitely. Talking about goals and expectations, is there any big dream of yours, any project that you hope to pursue someday?
That's a good question. Wow. I just finished a project that was a goal of mine for a while. My dad he like has all these woodworking tools, like every kind of saw you could imagine, and but he never used, like, he spent all this time collecting the equipment, but he never used it. So I had this idea to, like, in order to get him to use his stuff, that I wanted to build this, like, table, like a piece of furniture where I have a record player, and I started to collect vinyl albums, and so I wanted to have, like, a really nice piece of furniture to put that on. And so he and I went to this place, like, we drove for an hour to this place where they had all these trees that had cut down, big slabs of wood. And we found this really beautiful piece of wood. Is like a black walnut. It's really dark and cool shape. The grain was really, anyway. So we bought that and we made this cabinet out of it. And so, and I am not a woodworking person, so I was kind of like the assistant. It was my vision, but I was just my dad's assistant. But like to do that project with him was really fun. And so we just finished it. Like I actually just made some tweaks to one of the cabinet doors that wasn't quite straight. And so now it's like finally finished, and it's really awesome. So that was a project I had for a long time. I haven't decided what my next one is.
That's really nice. I really like that. And it makes me think that you inspired him to actually start using the tools that he had to create something with you. It's really, really nice. And I think something you're going to cherish as well.
So I'm going to have to come up with another one so he'll let me use the saws next time.
What's something that you're excited to learn about the team during this transition?
I think it's always interesting. I think sometimes when you're in a routine and things have been the same for a while, people settle into something, and so with change there's always opportunity. So it'll be fun to see who like takes on something new because there's an opportunity to do that, and what else we'll need, because I think the overall needs of the company are not going to be the same, and so things will change, and I think people will adapt, and people will see a need and kind of jump in. So I think it's opportunity, and see who takes advantage of that.
I think the phrase you mentioned about change is opportunity is something that people should really, really think about right now during this transition. It's easy to go into like that mentality of everything's going to change, and what if they fire me? What if this happens to me? But in reality, every change brings opportunity to your life. Everything happens for a reason. This is what I think. And it leads you to where you have to be. So I agree. And it's interesting to see who's going to step up, who's going to create something new. I think this is like the best opportunity for people, as we mentioned, that wanted to get noticed, or people that want to step into a different role, to take advantage of it and to make the most out of it with like the best mentality they can. I
think you're right. So that'll be fun. There will be lots of opportunities because, I think there's a lot of reasons this will be good. And it'll also be, it'll be a little sad because we'll be, parting ways with people that we've known and worked with for a while. But I do think, we'll be smaller and more focused in some ways, and maybe that'll bring out like, different skills of people we didn't know they had.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about managing people and all these leadership roles, as a manager, how do you give and receive feedback?
I think that goes back to the point I made before. Like, I think you have to maybe tailor that to the individuals that you're talking to. And I think it's important to start from a place of like giving like open feedback, and creating an environment where people understand even feedback that isn't like great. It's always there with the idea of like to help you improve, and so I don't know. I've seen over the years of my career all kinds of different methodologies for how you give feedback, and I think like there's validity to all of them, right? As a tool, but I think what's important as a manager is to know each person well enough to know how they would take feedback and what motivates them. But I think the most important thing is to like not create a situation where you avoid difficult feedback to the point where then it's almost hurts or it's a surprise. So that's what to me it's the continuous feedback. And then I think that like what's really important, and it's not always the same for every role, and it's even difficult for some roles, but like to the extent you can use data um, to sort of show, here's an expected performance, here's where you exceed it, here's where you come short of it, and then it's always important, I think. There's always like a cultural thing about, is a project like red, yellow, or green, right? Like, and to me, it's like, I don't know that I like yellow, right? Because it's either on track or it's not. But I think yellow is always this thing of like, oh, well, it's like, it's not that bad. And so people don't feel as bad about it. So I think you have to kind of change the culture of like, red's not bad, it's just off target, really. And so if I'm the manager, what I would want to focus on are the metrics that aren't on target. And so the red would be like, oh, I should put my attention there. So it's not about like shame to the individual who has like a red metric. It's more of like, this is the signal that like, we need to look at this and understand why it's red. And I think for most of the time, people who aren't hitting a target know why, and they probably have ideas of what support they could use to get on track. And then when they don't, then it's a learning opportunity, like across a team, to say, has anyone else encountered this issue, and how would you deal with it, or how have you dealt with it? And then people can learn from those. So I think, yeah, like continuous feedback is important. Being open, honest, and consistent with how things are going, and then tracking metrics, and then focusing on the things where people need help, and not making a missed metric about shame, but more about like, how can we help you succeed?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things you mentioned is a skill that I think every manager should have. Get to know your team and know exactly how people receive different feedback, so that you can kind of like tailor your feedback to make sure that they're receiving it well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easy for us to just find one way to do stuff, and we do everything like that because we assume that this is the best way to do it. But I feel that when managing different people, everybody's going to be different, and everybody's going to receive and perceive what you're telling them differently. So what you said about getting to know them and getting to know how exactly to give that feedback, I think is highly important and a very good skill to have as a manager as well.
Yeah. I think, and managers have to learn those skills too, right? Like, it's not, you don't get, usually when people get promoted into a manager role, it's because they were really good at doing whatever role they were in, and it has very little to do with how they manage people, and we don't really teach that as a skill. So I think new managers need a lot of grace too, right, as they learn how to do that job, and shouldn't be afraid to ask for help, right?
Yeah, definitely. And to close off and getting to know a little bit more about yourself, you mentioned that you were trying to do the project of the wood. What's a different hobby that you've been obsessed with lately, something that you do?
So my daughter and I have watched Stranger Things, the Netflix show, and it's not really my genre, I will say, but she got me hooked the first season. And so, now that it's the final season, knowing that the first part of the final season was dropping at Thanksgiving, we watched the first 4 seasons over the course of just a couple of weeks. So we re-binged all of it. Then and she was away for Thanksgiving when the new episodes came out, so we had to promise each other we wouldn't watch without each other. But then she called me from the airport when she was on her way home and said, I want to watch one of the episodes on the plane. And so she's like, you should watch one too. So while she was flying home, we each watched an episode. And then I picked her up at the airport, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and we got home at midnight and we watched another episode. And then we woke up on Sunday morning and finished the rest of the 4 that had dropped. So, and now we watch a lot of like TikTok videos that she finds with different theories about what's going on in the show. So I guess if you ask about an obsession, that's the closest thing I have to that right now.
My next question was going to be about a show or a book that you recommend. And I think Stranger Things is your recommendation then.
Yeah, it's a good show. I've enjoyed it. It's a little nostalgic, right? Because it's based in the 80s, and so, the music I recognize, right?
Is that the rock that your kids mentioned you like? The type of music there?
That may be even older than the stuff that they call old man rock.
Um, Lastly, if you weren't in this career, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Huh. Well, I tried to be a ski instructor, but I wasn't quite the lifestyle I was looking for, so I passed on that. I also tried to be a sports agent, and I worked for a company that worked with a bunch of Olympians, and that was really fun. But I think ultimately, like I think I would want to be like an entrepreneur of some sort. I used to have good ideas about businesses to start, but I haven't had one lately. But I think it'd be fun to start a business of some kind.
Oh, thank you so much, Marcus, for your time, for getting to know a little bit more about you. The team is going to be very excited to get to know you. And I do hope that all of this transition, as you mentioned, gives us better opportunities. And your insights were really nice to get to know more. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie, and like thank you to everyone. I think I appreciate everything everyone's doing, and I know that transition is hard, and so I appreciate people sticking with us and having patience as we kind of navigate what it all means. But our objective really is to make sure that everyone understands where they're headed and what they're going to do, and then once the deal closes, we'll have kind of new direction for each part of the business going forward. So I think it's an exciting time for all of us, and so as we kind of go into the holidays here, I wish everyone happy holidays, and hope you have great time with your families over the season, and we'll keep working hard.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marie.